Imagine this, a prison where the doors are wide open, yet no one wants to leave. No guards, no chains, just music, lights, and endless entertainment. Sounds like paradise? Aldous Huxley didn't think so. Nearly a century ago, Huxley wrote Brave New World, not as a fantasy, but as a chilling prophecy. He didn't fear dictators. He feared distractions. Not pain, but pleasure. Because once people are comfortable, truly comfortable, they stop asking questions. The perfect dictatorship would have the appearance of democracy, a prison without walls. Aldous Huxley. In this world, he imagined, nobody rebels, not because they're forbidden to, but because they're too entertained to care. And here's the terrifying truth. We are already living in it. What if I told you that pleasure is the most effective method of control? It sounds contradictory. We usually associate manipulation with pain, punishment, or fear. But Huxley flipped that on its head. He warned us that when people are constantly entertained, when life is filled with dopamine hits and convenience, they lose the will to reflect, question, and resist. They stop living with awareness and start existing on autopilot. It starts subtly. A few hours on your phone after work. Another streaming series to relax the mind. A quick purchase to feel better. A quick scroll to avoid loneliness. No one forces you to do it. That's what makes it work so well. This is the genius of the system Huxley warned us about. You're not chained, you're choosing it. And when pleasure becomes your coping mechanism, your escape, your identity, you stop growing. Because growth requires discomfort. And discomfort is the one thing modern life trains us to avoid at all costs. In Huxley's Brave New World, there was a drug called Soma. It didn't kill people. It didn't enslave them. It simply made them happy, or at least, made them forget they were unhappy. Sad? Take Soma. Lonely? Take Soma. Questioning the system? Take Soma. Sound familiar? Today, we don't have a pill called Soma, but we've created dozens of replacements, pleasure-inducing escapes that promise to solve our emotions without us ever needing to face them. Mobile phone social media is the most popular Soma. You're feeling insecure, unwanted, or bored, so you scroll. You get likes, comments, videos, memes. A digital hug. For a moment, it works. But when the screen goes dark, the emptiness returns, often deeper. Global Meridian's pornography is another kind. Instant gratification. No connection, no vulnerability, no growth. Just a shortcut to pleasure that bypasses everything messy about intimacy. And each time, it leaves a bigger hole than before. Shopping too. Not out of need, but out of impulse. That rush of a new purchase. That fleeting sense of identity, control, importance. Gone in hours. Replaced by the hunger for more. Even medications, misused, can become Soma. Of course, many people genuinely need them. But there's a difference between healing and escaping. When pills replace inner reflection, when sadness is pathologized instead of explored, we lose the opportunity to grow through it. These modern Somas all share one thing in common. They promise comfort, but steal your self-awareness. They don't kill the pain. They cover it. They sedate the messenger, instead of listening to what it came to say. Here's the hard part. None of this feels bad in the moment. That's why it works. That's why it's voluntary. You don't realize the cage is there because it's made of everything you enjoy. But the cost? Your depth, your resilience, your humanity. Because when you avoid pain long enough, you also lose the ability to feel joy in its purest form. You forget how to sit in silence. You forget how to face discomfort without reaching for a distraction. You become dependent, not just on things, but on not feeling. And that's the moment when Soma wins. Not by force, but by seduction. Here lies the most dangerous illusion of the modern world. What feels like freedom might actually be the softest form of slavery. And this time, the jailer doesn't wear a uniform, he wears a smile. We no longer need chains. We don't need walls. All it takes to imprison someone now is to hand them a phone, or a streaming service, or a sugar-laced treat, or a swipe of approval on social media. And just like that, we're hooked. But here's the disturbing part. We're not just hooked, we're grateful for the hook. Aldous Huxley saw this coming nearly 100 years ago, long before the internet, TikTok, or dopamine detoxes. He realized that pleasure is not a gift. It's a carefully engineered tool, a way to make people obedient without them ever realizing they've lost their will. You don't need to beat a man if you can distract him. You don't need to censor his thoughts if you can keep him entertained. And so, like children in a candy store, we binge on stimulation. Not because we are evil, not because we are lazy, but because pleasure feels safe. Pain wakes you up, But pleasure? Pleasure keeps you asleep, with a smile on your face. Men are so enslaved that they love their servitude. Etienne de la Boétie. Etienne de la Boétie coined the idea of voluntary servitude. When people choose the cage simply because it's softer than the wilderness outside, it's not the tyrant who enslaves us anymore. It's us, craving comfort over clarity, craving convenience over truth. It's easy to say, I'm free because I can do whatever I want. But the real question is, can you do nothing? Can you sit with yourself, undistracted, unentertained? Try this. Sit in a quiet room for 10 minutes without your phone, your music, or even your thoughts running wild. Most people can't. They feel an itch and unbearable silence. A void they're desperate to fill. And that is the test of real freedom. Carl Jung put it clearly. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Because facing your soul isn't glamorous. It's not an Instagram reel or a dopamine hit. It's awkward, raw. It's confronting the parts of you that you've buried under filters, likes, and endless to-do lists. Pleasure becomes prison when you can't turn it off. When the reward center in your brain becomes the dictator of your life. When scrolling becomes survival. When food is not nourishment, but numbing. When sex is not connection, but escape. When rest is no longer restful, but avoidance in disguise. You're not a prisoner in chains. You're a prisoner in pajamas, on your couch, with full Wi-Fi. And the prison bars are invisible, made of pixels and sugar and instant validation. But the worst part? You don't want to leave. Because the prison is comfortable. Because the walls are painted with dopamine. Because everyone else is still inside, and stepping out would make you different, alone, uncertain. So you stay. But comfort kills more dreams than failure ever could. This is not a call to reject all pleasure. True pleasure, conscious, earned, intentional, is a gift. But unconscious pleasure is a trap disguised as a reward. It is the noise that drowns your inner voice. The bright screen that blinds your inner vision. The soft bed that seduces you into permanent sleep. The price of unconscious pleasure is your clarity, your direction, your courage. And what's more tragic than that? Because when we stop choosing discomfort, we stop choosing growth. And when we stop choosing growth, we stop becoming fully human. So, ask yourself, what do I reach for when I'm uncomfortable? What do I consume to avoid silence? And what might I discover about myself, about life, if I simply sat still and listened? Maybe that's the most dangerous thing of all. That silence isn't empty. It's full of truth. And in a world addicted to pleasure, truth is the only rebellion left. So, how do we escape? Not by renouncing all pleasure. Not by becoming a monk, a minimalist, or someone who lives in a cave. Not by deleting every app, throwing out every snack, and living in emotional austerity. Because the truth is, pleasure isn't the enemy. Ignorance is. The real trap is not what you consume, but how unconsciously you do it. It's the moment you reach for your phone without even knowing why. It's the reflex of eating, watching, buying not because you need it, but because it's easier than feeling. Freedom is not the absence of commitments, but the ability to choose and commit to what is most meaningful. Paulo Coelho. Real freedom starts not with a dramatic rebellion, but with a whisper, a pause, a simple question. Am I choosing this, or is it choosing me? This is where awareness begins, because a conscious human being can watch a movie without binging the next 5, can enjoy social media without spiraling into comparison, can sit with sadness without numbing it with dopamine on demand. Why? Because they understand the sacred truth that modern life hides. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is the beginning of self-awareness, of inner strength, of reclaiming your ability to choose. So how do you begin this reclamation? Let's make it real. Here are 4 battle-tested practices to reclaim your mind in a world designed to steal it. 1. Practice the conscious pause. Before you pick up your phone, your snack, your remote, pause. Just 10 seconds. Ask yourself, what am I running from? Is it boredom? Loneliness? Uncertainty? That pause is your doorway to choice. Most people live in reaction, but awareness gives you the space to respond, not just react. 2. Fast from comfort intentionally. Choose a day, once a week. No phone, no sugar, no YouTube, no headphones. Not to punish yourself, but to remember what stillness feels like. To feel the itch and resist scratching it. To experience hunger, emotional or physical, without immediately feeding it. This is mental strength training in a society obsessed with comfort. 3. Choose depth over ease. Anyone can scroll. But can you sit down and finish a hard book? Anyone can send emojis. But can you have a real conversation with someone you disagree with? Anyone can avoid pain. But can you stay with an emotion long enough to understand it instead of avoiding it? He who avoids suffering also avoids growth. Carl Jung. Comfort never transforms you. Depth does. 4. Build internal pleasure. This is the highest rebellion. Pleasure that doesn't come from consumption, but from connection. Look someone in the eyes and say what you've never dared say. Write something from your soul. Plant something. Paint something. Create, not to post online, but because it connects you with your essence. Take a walk without your phone. Lie on the floor and breathe. Listen to the silence until it speaks back. These are not tips. They are rituals for remembering who you are beneath the noise. Because here's the truth. The most dangerous addiction isn't drugs or money. It's unconsciousness. The automatic life. The overstimulated mind. The soul that forgets it ever had wings. But the good news? No matter how long you've been asleep, awakening is always one breath away. And once you no longer need stimulation to feel alive, once you can sit in discomfort and still know who you are, the system can't control you anymore. You've become dangerous. You've become free, not because the world changed, but because you changed your relationship to the world. So next time you're about to reach for another hit of cheap pleasure, pause, breathe, and ask the question, is this feeding my soul or numbing it? Because that answer could be the first step toward the rest of your life.